We first encountered MV Agusta's naked B3 800 earlier this year, and it made a lasting impression. Since that test, I've ridden the bike on the Pirelli Bike of the Year competition, where it was very well received, but now I'm on it again. Why? Well, just to remind myself what it's like, and remind you as well, before I get to grips with another new model from MV Agusta. And I've managed to remind myself that it's a brilliant naked sport bike, which kind of puts even more pressure on the bike we're here to take a closer look at. This is MV Agusta's F3 800. MV claim it makes 148 brake horsepower and weighs just 173 kilos. And believe me, that ain't a lot for a bike like this. At a price of 159,000 rand, it's knocking on the door of the big litre bikes. But overall, these are very promising figures. With less power, but effectively exactly the same chassis, the 675cc F3 has made a name for itself this year in world and national supersport racing, so we know the basic package must be a good one. Adding a healthy dollop of power to the same recipe makes the beautiful little 800 F3 a unique configuration for the road. The only other bikes playing a similar game are Suzuki's GSX-R 750 and the just-released 899 Panigale. The MV can more than hold its head in this company, and though it's properly fast, it's also easy to ride, at least as far as sports bikes go. It's noticeably more grunty than the 675, and that means a little less of a frantic search for gears and a smoother, quicker style. Make no mistake though, 148 horsepower still takes some hanging on to, especially if you're a tester with the sort of physical characteristics best suited to touring holidays. Wow. 800cc, only an extra 125cc over the 675, but it's too much for me. Fortunately, I happen to know the recently crowned South African Superbike champion, and a top bike needs a top rider, so I think I'll leave the tough stuff to him. Clinton Seller earns his living on a Kawasaki ZX-10, but he's comfortable on the MV Agusta right away. There is 8-way adjustable traction control, which Clinton has thoughtfully turned off, and a multitude of other electronic variables that should, in theory, help you get more out of the bike and yourself. In the right hands, though, there's no denying it looks like a race bike, but the F3 800 has been designed specifically to be a sport bike for the road. The F3 800 is basically the 675. It's the same chassis, the whole deal, except it's got a bigger engine in it. It's only 125 cc's. Before we get into some of the details, Clint, first impressions. What really strikes you? Because you haven't ridden the 675, have you? Never.
This is kind of, besides the bigger MV, the 1000, this is the first time I've climbed on almost the new generation, and it's a race bike. It's honestly just what it is. It's a race bike with headlights and flickers. From the seating position, the handlebars position, everything, it's a nimble motorcycle. It just feels like I've gone onto a race bike that's just haven't put the race fairings on yet. So when you say race bike, what is it that you mean by race bike? Is it its agility? Is it because it's responsive, that you can do what you want with it? Explain what you mean by a race bike. Pretty much what I mean is it's a little bit of a stiffer chassis, so already, you know, every input you put into the bars, into the footrests, into your body, it reflects on the motorcycle. It turns when you want it to. As you sort of, you know, trying to slide the bike in, move your body, the bike reacts with you, which is not sort of common for a road bike. Road bikes normally are a little bit more plush, but this really gives you the feedback to almost, you gain the confidence to try stuff and, you know, push a little bit closer. Now, you haven't ridden the triple-cylinder engine before. Initial impressions are what? Now, this is an 800cc, so it's bigger than the 675, which your teammate is currently winning the championship on. So it's got a bit of a bigger engine. Does it? But you ride a 1000cc superbike, so it ain't going to feel that fast. How does it feel to you? It does feel. It feels strong. It definitely feels stronger than. It feels like an 800. You know, it's stronger than a 600, but yeah, slower than a superbike in the sense of in power. You know, it just doesn't quite have the punch that a superbike has. Yeah. 148 horsepower, whereas on the 675, I think you're around 120, 125 horsepower. That's quite a big difference for an extra 125 cc's. Yeah, I'd put it this way, I wouldn't mind racing that in the 600 class.
Racers always looking for an advantage, aren't you? I'm sure you can get a 675 sticker for the side of it.
Yeah, we can make a plan, see what Cameron and them can do.
And the cycle bits, I mean, the brakes, absolutely stunning, Brembo monoblocks. Too much power maybe with not enough feel, or did you get on with them?
Initially, almost popped my eyes out of my head when I first time I pulled the brakes. But as you get into it, you kind of realise, okay, I don't need to grab so hard at the brakes. I can be a little bit more gentle and still be braking where I would be braking with sort of your normal manufacturer's bike. So, ride it is to what it is. The brakes are sharp, so just be a little bit more gentle with them, and then you can actually use them to your advantage for sure.
And suspension, look, we've got it on stock road suspension. Mid-valve, bless its little cotton socks, is quite like South African roads. There's a few potholes out there.
It's very, I must say, very smooth, comfortable ride for the type of track that it was. Like I said, it does give you the feedback, so you do know you are going over a bump, which is a lot safer for me. I prefer to feel where I am than sort of blindly going over something and then it can all go wrong. It does give you the feedback, but it handles the bumps. It doesn't sort of bounce you off them or anything like that. Yeah.
And under braking and getting into a turn, I've seen you backing it in. It's got a slipper clutch. It's got that engine kind of torque reducer. Worked okay for you? No too much hopping around or anything?
No, sort of very smooth. Once you get it to slide, it doesn't want to snap back at you or anything like that, which is nice. It's comfortable. Like I say, the whole motorcycle almost encourages you to push to the edge, to try a little bit harder, which is nice. I mean, that's why we ride motorbikes on the track, not to...
The quick shifter? Yeah. I've heard people complain on the previous one that, maybe it's a little bit sudden, maybe they prefer their own control, but I love it. I think the thing works.
I don't know why anyone doesn't love a quick shifter. I mean, it's just so much better. It's just, you feel like a racer. It works properly. You just hold the accelerator open and change gears. I mean, I don't know why any motorbike doesn't come out
like
with it.
Look, it can be a bit awkward at slow speed, so when you're riding it on the road, you can turn it off, and then when you want to go quick, turn it back on again. Anything else then that would really stand out for you? I mean, engine's good, chassis good. Doesn't look too bad either, does it?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty motorcycle. You're definitely going to pull up to the cafe and feel pretty good about yourself when you got it. Other thing is, it is small. I must say that's one thing that I noticed. I'm not the smallest rider, but I'm not the biggest rider in the world either. It is a small motorcycle. So in that sense, you're going to have to pull up to the cafe and peel yourself off it, but you do look good when you've stopped.
Yeah, if you're a big fella, then Clint's absolutely right. It's something to take into account. We're looking at about 160,000 Rand for this, which is a good, 30 to 40,000 Rand, 30,000 Rand more than the 675 version. So you're paying, 30,000 Rand for an extra 125 cc's, but it makes a difference.
To be honest, in racing, we pay a lot more than that for a few more horsepower. So to me, it's a pretty good deal. Yeah, definitely, I'd be paying that if you're gonna buy such an exotic motorcycle. Go for the 800. It does feel like a good bike. It's a good motorcycle.
The extra 125 cc's. I mean, it doesn't sound much, 125cc scooters, but this makes nearly 30 brake out. Well, 20 brake horsepower more at peak. But through the rev range, in places, it's making 30 horsepower more. It doesn't rev quite as high as the 675, so perhaps not quite as good for racing. Well, it doesn't even qualify for a class, does it?
Yeah,
which is a shame. It is a road bike. I mean, it's built for... There is no class 4 and 800cc, so it is the 675 made perfect for the road.